Very good morning to all of you. So you have given the first test. Yeah. So just attempt the questions for the topics which we are done, and the students of the previous batch, you should attend the current batch which is going on. You can do just whatever topics we are done with. Rest you can write later. Okay, so PSIR paper 2. I hope you have seen the paper. So these are the topics. That is, still we have to discuss comparative politics in this batch, state in comparative perspective, politics of representation and participation, and globalization. 2 questions were there, 3 questions were there, 2 from comparative politics and 1 full-fledged question from globalization. Okay. As such, theories were not asked, but there was a question on realism, offensive and defensive realism, right? Also, 2 questions were from functionalism. Okay, there are 2 questions in paper 2 which has been asked from the theory of functionalism. I hope you remember the theory of functionalism. What functionalism says? Regional integration. Okay, that keep the politicians out and bring whom? Technicians. Focus on economic sphere. So functionalism is a liberal theory of IR. Yes, it's a liberal theory. Okay. Then 2 questions were there from NAM. Non-aligned, abhi nahi. 2 questions from NAM. Okay. Not mentioned here, but I have discussed with you, that is HST, hegemony stability theory. And the question was there on HST, hegemony stability theory. Okay. Then this is paper 2 part A. Paper 2 part B is not there, and a lot of questions are there from India and the world. 2 questions from UN. One is on UNSC and second is on ICJ. Okay, na? Then regionalization of world politics. There was question on EU and SAARC. So you can see that almost all the topics are being covered. So that's why you cannot ignore the topics. So first question A, what are the crucial functions of empirical political theory in comparative politics? So it's not exactly comparative politics. It is the amalgamation of theory and approaches and comparative politics. That how empirical approach is influencing comparative politics. So those who are done with the previous batch students, I hope you remember earlier it was comparative government and comparative government changed to comparative politics. ये बात याद है? Comparative government changed to comparative politics. How comparative government changed to comparative politics? Institutions and the constitution. So comparative government is the use of traditional approaches. Under modern approaches, comparative government changed to comparative politics with the rise of behavioralism, which was a revolution. Behavioralism led to the emergence of modern approaches. And what paved the way for behavioralism? Empirical political theory, empirical approach. Empirical is observation based and behavioralism is finding facts and data. Okay. So, however, it's a sub question. So it was in the test series, which was there in the last test series. This question, examine political phenomena through the process of cross global investigation, has become the fundamental function of comparative politics. Critically examine this statement with special reference to the modern approaches to comparative politics, and modern approaches emerged under behavioral revolution. And which paved the way for behavioral revolution? Empirical approach. So when we say traditional approaches, which are the traditional approach? Philosophical approach, historical approach, legal institutional approach, and empirical approach. So empirical approach, what are the critical functions and the features of empirical approach in comparative politics? So we are better able to compare the 2 states with the help of empirical political theory. Okay. So we'll discuss the model answer later. So again, what are the difficulties faced by political theories in comparing the states? Again, a question from comparative politics, that what are the real time scenario? What are the real time scenario? We'll discuss that. Finding all facts and data is not possible. You need to compare. It is easy to compare institutions and constitution, but it is not easy to compare. It is not easy to compare. When we say it is easy to compare institutions and constitution, but it is very difficult to compare the politics of the two states despite having the similar institutions, because you have to bring so many variables into the picture, and bringing all the variables into the picture is always one of the major challenge. So same, evaluate the nature of comparative politics and highlight the limitations of comparative methods. Whatever methods we will use always will be short of bringing all the important data into the picture. So behavioral approaches and problems with behavioralism led to the emergence of post-behavioralism. When we say that, can we ignore what is the major drawback of traditional approaches? Values. But if you have to compare the values, which approaches we can use is philosophical approach. Okay, so if we have to compare values, it is only possible through philosophical approach. And in this subject of PSIR, most of the concepts we are dealing with are philosophical normative in nature. So we need the amalgamation of both traditional and modern approaches, and this is what exactly is the theme of post-behavioralism. Okay. So difficulties, a more direct question than the previous one, and you just have to write the short note. Third, it was from this topic, politics of representation and participation. How does democratic politics construct citizenship? A bit tricky one. So when we'll discuss the model answer, you will understand. The relationship between democracy and citizenship, a very new question, never has been asked. This was the question we asked in our test series, okay? But in the previous test series, increase participation of the underprivileged in the political process of the democratic societies, strengthened democracy, or created political chaos and conflict. Comment. Basically, this question is what? That is increased participation is strengthening democracy, or it is causing chaos or conflict. Okay. Only representative democracy can't strengthen democracy. What is the most important feature of democracy? Deliberation, because deliberation with democracy means nothing if it is not deliberative. Indian democracy is becoming more deliberative or noisy? Noisy. Okay. If the role of the legislature will be undermined, ordinance route will be taken, it becomes what? Dictatorship of executive. Okay. So if this question is there, which scholars comes to your mind just by seeing this question? Democracy and citizenship. Okay. Which scholars comes to your mind? Aristotle. Second, Hannah Arendt. So these are the at least two scholars should come to your mind, seeing this short note of democratic politics construct, how democratic politics construct citizenship. Citizenship, according to Aristotle, citizenship is not just a, citizenship is a duty. Citizenship is a duty. Okay. So there's a difference between a subject and a citizen. There's a responsibility associated for being a citizen. And Hannah is a scholar of civic republicanism. Okay. So we'll discuss this. Then impact of globalization. You have to critically examine, especially on the developing countries of the world. Very direct question. Pros and cons. Which scholars comes to your mind? पोस्ट colonial तो आएंगे, बिल्कुल आएंगे. एंड पोस्ट colonial में दो पर्सपेक्टिव थे, मॉडर्नाइजेशन एंड दी मॉडर्नाइजेशन पर्सपेक्टिव एंड मार्क्सिस्ट पर्सपेक्टिव. Wallerstein, world system theory, Emmanuel Wallerstein, dependency theory. Okay. So post-colonial two perspective, modernization will say what? Good for the developing state, while Marxist perspective is what? It will lead to, it is a kind of post-colonialism. Okay. So they suggest what kind of routes developing countries should follow. They should not integrate their economies with the core. So you will use the terminology of what? Core and periphery. Core periphery. Okay. So dependency school. Impact of globalization in test series, we asked on the developed world. Here it is on the developing countries. And this is exact question we asked, which has been asked by UPSC, impact of globalization from the perspective of third world countries. So why I'm telling you all this, what is the endeavor of telling you what that this is what we asked and this is what UPSC has asked, so that you can take your test series a bit more seriously. If you would have written if those students who would have written an answer for this question, I hope it would have been very easy to frame an answer for the question in mains. If the student would have written this, would have taken the feedback of this, and would have at least read the model answer for this question itself, it would have been a cakewalk to attempt an answer for this question at that time in the mains, even without doing too much of thinking also. Okay. Already student will going to have all the points in their mind to frame an answer for this question. And that is why you will not have much time to revise your complete syllabus when you go for your mains. What you can do at max at the time of your mains is read your answers which you have written in the test series, or read the model answers of the test series. That will help you more, because you will have a lot of points in your mind to frame your answers in the mains. Okay, so compile your whole syllabus in points while writing your test series. Okay, so that you should have a framework ready. Okay, if this question will come, I should be ready with the framework and the structure. So again, functionalist approach. Direct question on the theory of functionalism. Okay. So this was asked in 2018 also. Examine the functionalist approach. So questions do get repeated. Our test series cooperation in one functional area will have its ramification in other functional area. In the light of the statement, analyze the functionalist approach to IAS. ठीक है, लास्ट ईयर ही क्वेश्चन पूछा था. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन था, व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय ऑफेंसिव एंड डिफेंसिव रियलिज्म? Repeatedly asked since 8. Scholar of offensive realism is? Offensive realism, Mersheimer, and defensive realism, K. Waltz. Whose theory is more closer to Morgenthau? Offensive or defensive? Offensive. Power and more power. Man is animus dominandi. Okay. So our question which we asked was, evaluate the basic tenets of neo-realism and its criticism. Okay. Another question which we asked, realist approach will continue to guide the foreign policy. How classical realism is different from neo-realism? Classical realists focus on actor level analysis and neo-realists focus on structure level analysis, because there's anarchy. That's why states will go for acquiring powers. There's anarchy in the structure. And social constructivists will say anarchy is in the mind. Okay? So that you can use to write a counter to realism also. Okay? So a very direct question, which personally I can see very direct question directly from your note, both functionalist approach, offensive and defensive realism. So ऐसा question जब exam में हम देखते हैं, so it gives us confidence. Okay, सबसे पहले तो यही attempt करते हैं, because वो सबसे ज़्यादा याद होता है हमें, है ना? So where you have, so always try to write. I'm not sure how you have approached your exams till date, whatever exams you have given 10th board, 12th board, and your college exams, university exams. There, there are two ways in which student attempts the paper. One, seeing the paper, they will start from the first question. In UPSC, change your style. Even I did the same. I used to do it like this, seeing the first. I never used to see the complete paper. It creates anxiety. मेरे को एंजाइटी होती थी कि मैं पूरा पेपर नहीं देखता था. बट इन यूपीएससी यू शुड फर्स्ट सी द कंप्लीट पेपर, give at least 10 minutes and carefully select which questions you want to attempt, and you should first attempt the one on which you have maximum confidence. So you should, as a student, these are the strategies which really make difference in the final merit, Okay, these are the things which will help you to score a bit more than others. So if you will write this one, first thing you will able to complete it in a timely manner. So this will give you confidence, one question done. Okay. And second thing, once you will start, it takes time before you will come into the flow. Okay. So if you will attempt that, which you are best prepared with, okay, it will give you a lot of confidence and it will boost your confidence when you are writing your main. So always write first question which you think you are best prepared with. And the one you think that you have to think a lot on that to frame an answer for that question, try to write it in the last. So first do those questions which you are well prepared with. Okay. So both these questions came from where? Theories in IR. So 2 questions from theory, not the complete, but the half question. Then discuss the normative ethos of NAM. Thoda bit tricky hai ye question. Okay. In magnifying India's soft power in pursuit of his national interest. This is a bit tricky, requires a lot of thought process because you will not have a prepared vocabulary to write an answer for this question. The other question which has been asked on NAM is bit easy and more direct. Kya hai question? Discuss the relevance of normative ethos. Still the relevance of normative ethos of NAM in magnifying India's soft power in pursuit of his national interest. Then second question which has been asked, during the Cold War, NAM tried to become a third force in world politics, but failed because it was too large and unwidely discussed. अब क्वेश्चन की लैंग्वेज क्या कह रही है? What the language is saying is that NAM was not a successful movement. It failed to achieve its objective. Discuss. It is only asking what? That you need to discuss its failure. But I am suggesting you, after writing most of its failure, do write that NAM was not a total failure. Do write your points in favor that NAM did serve few interests to ensure world peace in the form of decolonization and disarmament, and has played a positive role in even during the Cold War time. So it was not a total failure. The question is only asking what? Its failure. So it is discussed. While after writing all the failures, few lines you can write that NAM, despite its shortcoming, was able to fulfill these objectives and interest. Okay. Discuss the various constraints on American hegemony today. Which of these are likely to become more prominent in the future? Okay. Not exactly the HST, hegemony stability theory, but we're going to refer this HST while framing an answer for this question. HST has been given by Robert Gilpin. ठीक है ना? तो ये नाम याद होने चाहिए at least. ठीक. These are the previous year 2021 and 2023. Examine the challenges to American hegemony, critically examine the decline of US as a hegemon and its implications for the changing international order. What according to the scholars of HST will be the implication? That without a hegemon, what will happen? Liberal economic order can't sustain. For the sustenance of the liberal economic order, you need a hegemon. This is the belief of whom? Those who believe in the theory of HST, hegemony stability theory. Okay. The decline of US as a hegemon of the liberal world order has significant implications for international political in general and the Asia Pacific region in particular. Examine. So this was in our test series, this question. Okay. Direct question, structure and functions of ICJ. याद होना चाहिए. ठीक है ना? Structure and function. How many judges are there in ICJ? स्ट्रक्चर तो यही है ना, हाउ मेनी जजेस? 9 years के लिए होता है, 15 जजेस होते हैं, उसमें कोई प्रेसिडेंट भी होता है. एंड in the case of tie, whose vote will be final? President. And president is elected for how many years? And the president is elected by General Assembly, and no two presidents can be from the same country. ठीक है ना, ये सारा स्ट्रक्चर है उसका. और फंक्शन क्या है? 2 functions मैंने बताए थे, कंपल्सरी and voluntary. Okay, it takes issues between the states. Is it judgments are binding? Yes, binding in general. Okay, compulsory jurisdiction, if you have given acceptance, these becomes binding. Even Security Council can take a action if you will not follow the judgments of ICJ. And one line difference between ICJ and ICC. ICC can be against crime against humanity, even for it can take action against an individual. ICJ gives it verdicts against whom? States. Again, structure and function of UNSC, and conclusion will be it is in dire need of reform. ये क्वेश्चन भी आपको पहले करने चाहिए, ठीक है ना, डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन है, अब ये तो याद होने चाहिए, इसका कोई ऑल्टरनेट नहीं है. You have to cram these things. From regional politics, threaten regional security and peace. We'll discuss this. I hope you are aware of this. The junta leadership, the military has took over the power. This has led to what? The migration crisis, that is Rohingya, one of the most politically unstable region, the South Asia. It will going to have its implications for India. Okay. Surprise question. Okay. But still, I'll consider it not a difficult one. Another question on regional organization, and you can touch the theory of functionalism here also. ठीक है ना? Previous year question, write a short note on EU. हमने short note ही पूछा था. ठीक है. तो previous year questions ही हैं ये जो I have added only those questions which have been asked in the last test series. ठीक है. So take your test series a bit seriously. All these came from paper 1. अब paper 2 आपको मुझे लगता है काफी easy लगना चाहिए. Main features of India's foreign policy in 21st century. What do you think is one of the feature? If you can tell me from our discussion, one of the main feature. चलो मान लिया realist approach, a bit more realist in the present time. Second main feature. अरे focus on soft power कह सकते हो. One of the feature that India is emphasizing or focusing on its soft power. ये बात तो आप कह सकते हो, ठीक है. और कोई मेन फीचर? मेजर बताया था क्लास में. मेन फीचर, मेन फोकस ऑन मल्टीलेटरलिज्म. इंडिया इज trying to play a much or a more important role in international institutions and organization, and India's focus on multilateralism rather than earlier non-alignment to multi-alignment. The G20, BRICS. So India's emphasis and focus on multilateralism, and one of the another feature para-diplomacy. अभी करेंगे सारे फीचर्स. So easy question था ये. Main features of India's foreign policy in 21st century, from Panchsheel to Gujarat Doctrine. If 5 principles govern our foreign policy towards our immediate neighborhood, in the change scenario, it is Gujarat, non-reciprocity in our ties. Important. What are the external determinants of foreign policy of a state? समझ आया क्वेश्चन क्या है? What question is exactly asking you? This question is asking exactly what? What are the external determinants of the foreign policy of the state? नहीं, बिल्कुल भी नहीं. नहीं. हाँ, क्या? नहीं, और बेटर हो सकता है. ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट, सिट विद योर वेबकैम ऑन. पहले तो अपना वेबकैम ऑन करके बैठो. बोलो.
Geopolitics changes.
What are the external determinants of the foreign policy of a state? Means what are the external factors which can influence the foreign policy? Ukraine war was in our control or beyond our control? So our foreign policy right now towards West Asia, Israel-Hamas war will going to have its impact on the foreign policy of the state or not? Ukraine war will going to have its impact on the foreign policy or not? Soviet disintegrated, it impacted the foreign policy of India or not? External determinants of the foreign policy. Okay, what are the external factors which can have its influence on the foreign policy of the state? One is the internal factors, domestic factors. Other is the external factors, factors which are beyond the control of a state. ठीक है, अभी बताता हूं ना, तो यही बता, अभी तो क्वेश्चन समझा है ना. What are the external determinants? Okay, so what are the external determinants which can influence the foreign policy, which are beyond? So there are domestic determinants and external determinants. So question is asking about what? External determinants which can influence the foreign policy. Okay. What are the reasons for the lack of regionness in South Asia? Okay, one of the least regionally connected region is South Asia. क्या word use करोगे यहाँ पर? One of the what I said, one of the lack of reason, one of the least regionally cohesive region is this region. Which word you will use? Security community.
Lack of
security community. भूल गए security community. फिर West Asian region and South Asian regions are yet to become what? Security community. Why do ethnic conflicts and insurgencies continue to remain a major impediment to the regional cooperation in South Asia? Okay. So 2 questions from India and South Asia. Why is the compromise reached at WTO regarding the COVID-19 vaccine not a TRIPS waiver? So this is WTO issue. You should have a clear understanding of TRIPS and TRIMS. Yet to discuss in your class. Okay. What steps India has taken to articulate the interest of the global South in international politics? Okay. And this word G20 and in the context of BRICS, it is in the news a lot. Global South. Major drivers of India's interest in Africa. 2021. Identify the drivers of India's new interest in Africa. How do the guiding principles of seek harmony and mutual cooperation 2020, 27, 23? These are the questions asked in the test. Highlights the irritants in India-Africa relation. Evaluates India's approach towards Africa. For India to become or to be remembered as the voice of Global South, it must grasp the moods and changes in Africa, while India's ties with Africa are seeing a new horizon. So basically, this is what are the major drivers of India's interest. Okay. Arms trade, economic ties, and convergence of geopolitical interests are no longer the 3 pillars of India-Russia relationship in the emerging strategic context. Comment. पहली बार पूछा ये एंगल. Because our defense alignment is on rise with whom? US. Okay. We do not have vibrant economic ties with Russia, and our geopolitical interests are diverging, considering China and the issue of Ukraine. I have discussed Quad in detail. Quad should not be seen as a military alliance. It is more than a military alliance, but India's embrace of Quad as a military alliance, since India allowed Australia to be a party to Malabar military exercise. US pursuing pivot to Asia. India is pursuing Act East. Alignment of US pivot and Act East. करेंगे सारी बातें, ठीक है? So this was previously asked, right? And we asked a very direct question on this. Short note on AUKUS versus Quad. AUKUS is a military alliance. Quad is more than a military alliance. So I hope, and another aspect I hope you can understand, it is very difficult that to frame exact vocabulary what UPSC will going to ask. You can prepare topics. You cannot prepare what? Questions. So you need to prepare topic in entirety, and UPSC can frame any question on that topic. Okay, so you should be ready with points, and you need to have the content in your mind so that you should be able to frame at that point of time. So you need to know about AUKUS, you need to know about Quad, you need to know the differences between two, you need to know about the pivot to Asia, you need to know about Act East, you need to know about the alignment. Okay, but exactly UPSC is going to ask this question, no one can predict that. ये डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन है और बहुत ही इजी क्वेश्चन है. Discuss the importance of India's role in UN peacekeeping as one of the important ground to claim permanent membership in UNSC. Okay. ये मेरे वर्ड्स नहीं है, ठीक है, ये राम सर ने ऐड कर दिया. ओवर एक्सप्लॉइटेड टॉपिक. ये अच्छा क्वेश्चन है बहुत. We have not discussed as such in the class, though I have discussed in detail about the nuclear issues, nuclear doctrine, NPT, CTBT, and India's nuclear security architecture. But ये question थोड़ा सा और ऊपर चला गया. India's nuclear policy is deeply influenced by its cultural beliefs and is seen as a pragmatic approach of its foreign policy. ये दोनों क्वेश्चन इस क्वेश्चन को कवर करते नहीं है बेसिकली. दीज आर मोर डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन व्हिच वी आस्क. शॉर्ट नोट ऑन इंडियाज न्यूक्लियर डॉक्ट्रिन एंड क्रिटिकली एग्जामिन इंडियाज अप्रोच टू न्यूक्लियर क्वेश्चन. क्रिटिकली एग्जामिन, वी आर कमिटेड फॉर न्यूक्लियर फ्री वर्ल्ड, बट we cannot compromise on our integrity and sovereignty, and our nuclear program was to protect our own integrity, sovereignty. 74 test we acquired technology, 98 we decided to weaponize it. But यहाँ कुछ और पूछा है ना? Discuss. It is deeply influenced by our cultural beliefs. कह सकते हैं? अच्छा, कैसे? नहीं, cultural belief. India's nuclear. First, what is our nuclear policy? Our nuclear policy is that nuclear technology should only be used for peaceful purpose. First is India's nuclear policy. India clearly projected that nuclear technology to be used only for peaceful purpose. Our cultural belief of what? Vasudev Kutumbakam. Interest of the world, or world is one global village. Okay. Threat to one is a threat for all. India never wanted to weaponize its nuclear technology. India participated in all the major initiatives which were taken for the nuke-free world. India stood for nuke-free world. Okay, all these steps, all these actions of India are driven from where? Our cultural belief of what? Vasudev Kutumbakam. Okay. And the pragmatic approach, realizing that we do need it for our integrity, sovereignty, surrounded by hostile weapon states. And when Pakistan was about to acquire, India decided to weaponize it. लिख सकते हो? I hope ये तो आप कर ही सकते हो. What steps India has taken to regain its foothold in Afghanistan since Taliban has took over the country since 2021? ठीक है, what steps India has taken? नहीं, वो तो हम पहले से ही कर रहे थे. These are the questions asked. I hope you can answer these questions in a better way. Recent takeover, it will impact India's strategic interest. We have still not discussed the dynamics of our Look North policy. Okay, it can, but I have discussed this. It can have its impact on India's reach in Central Asia. It can have its impact. It can lead to rise of what? Violence and terrorism, okay, in the region. So increasing onslaught of terrorism. But what steps India has taken to regain its foothold? क्या लिखे हैं steps हमने? कुछ याद है? India has organized the NSA level meet. India decided to reopen its in fact, the Taliban government has requested from India to not shut down its embassy. India has not ended its diplomatic mission. India is open to engage with Taliban. Okay. तालिबान की एम्बेसी नहीं है, वो अफगान एम्बेसी शट डाउन कराई है. वो प्रीवियस नॉर्दर्न अलायंस गवर्नमेंट उसको रन कर रही थी. हाँ, तो अभी आई नहीं थी ना, तो अभी वो अपने ऑफिशियल्स भेजेंगे. They have not sent their officials yet. So that will only possible when we'll establish diplomatic ties with them after taking assurances they will not support violence against India. India-Iran relation, challenges and limitations. Okay. Significance of West Asian Quad, yet to discuss with this batch. Look West policy and West Asian Quad is I2, U2. West Asia, अच्छा ये तो पिछले बार के थे. ये 2 पॉइंट्स आपके लिए हैं. So reading newspapers and the notes which you have and reading the model answers, trust on this. These are more than enough to handle mains. ठीक है ना? So I hope you can understand. You have to do justice with so many topics. So PSIR is not Plato, है ना? And Aristotle. And do not be too stuck with any of the topic. चलो अब थोड़ा सा मॉडल आंसर्स डिस्कस कर लेते हैं कि आंसर्स क्या बनेंगे. हाँ, ये PDF ग्रुप पर है, तो आपके क्लास के साथ मैं I'll share it on the, it's there on Zoom. I'll share on the, and second thing, these model answers does not mean you can't write better than this. Always there's a scope that you can frame a much better answer than these. You just need to take a reference. You don't have to cram them. You can't cram. Just use them as a reference sake. ठीक है ना? Take points out of them. ये क्या हुआ? So, what are the crucial functions of empirical political theory in comparative politics? As I said, in this batch, we have not discussed yet. So comparative method, okay, is a fundamental approach of inquiry. Now, so comparative method can be of two types: traditional methods and modern methods, right? Modern methods like political economy approach, political sociology approach. These modern methods emerge under behavioral revolution, right? Modern methods has turned comparative government to comparative politics. Earlier, Aristotle, I hope you remember, Aristotle has given his theory of constitution after comparing more than 150 constitutions. So he did what? He has compared constitutions. Okay. So after comparing constitutions, he is giving what? His theory of constitution. So basically, that is not seen as comparative politics, that is seen as comparative government. Those scholars do use these two words interchangeably. I am telling you the exact vocabulary. So comparative politics as a field evolved since when? After the end of Cold War. Earlier it was comparative government. Under behavioral revolution, modern approaches emerged, and modern approaches has changed the subject of comparative government to comparative politics. If you compare the Constitution of China with the Indian Constitution, what you are doing is comparative government. If you compare the politics of China with the Indian politics, what you are doing is comparative politics. Now, can you compare the politics of China and India only by studying the constitutions? No. You need to compare what? The economic system, the society also. So you need political sociology approach, political economy approach. So these approaches we'll study later. Okay. So this answer will make more sense once we are done with comparative politics. So originally confined to the study of comparative government. Okay. End of Second World War led to the emergence of third world countries. New countries emerge, and the culture and the third world countries emerge on the same political lines, but their cultural aspect is totally different from the Western world or not. So here there's a dominance of caste, but there is no role of caste in politics. So you cannot understand the politics of the developed world and the developing world with the help of what? Traditional approaches. So you need political culture approach or not? Yes. So comparative politics is about what? Focus of comparative politics is more on developing countries. Rise of empirical political theory marked. कैसे जाएगा ये? नहीं, डबल टच से तो नहीं हो रहा. So are there students from the previous batch? Just read this. You have it with you if you have doubt, because in this batch I have not discussed yet. So we'll discuss. This answer will make better sense once we'll complete our discussion on comparative politics. देखो ये लिखे ना, comparative politics identifies the similarities and difference among different political system. There's a difference between studying the institution and studying the system as a whole. When you study the culture, the economy, the values of the society which is influencing the politics, then it becomes what? Political system. Studying Indian Constitution is not studying Indian politics. Okay, it's not studying political system. When you are studying the institutions, the constitution, and the culture, the economy, the caste, then what you are studying is political system. Okay. So when you are comparing the institutions and the constitution, Technically, we should say it as comparative government. When we compare political systems of two states, it is called as comparative politics. So comparative politics before Second World War was comparative government. It turned to comparative politics under behavioral revolution. And empirical approach paved the way for what? Behavioral revolution. Empirical approach, observation based. Behavioral, which is based on facts and they claim, which is based on what? Facts and scientific investigation. All these names, Easton, David Easton, Robert Dahl, Max Weber. Okay, all these will come when we discuss comparative politics, Jean Blonder. Okay, they will come under different approaches. All these scholars have devised one or the other approach. Yeah, page to shift कर लिया. What are the difficulties? ये तो हो गया. How does democratic process construct citizenship? यहाँ कोई वो नहीं है क्या? हाँ, अब हो गया ना? How does democratic politics construct citizenship? So citizenship is a concept fundamental to understand relationship between individuals and state. What is different between subjects and citizens? Subjects do not have rights. Citizens enjoy rights. It is not merely a legal status. It involves active participation, rights and responsibility. First, who said this? Aristotle. Okay, then Habermas and Hannah Arendt. Then multicultural citizenship, Kimlicka. Okay. This I have not given you. You can take it from here. The name of the scholar, Marshall. That democratic politics has expanded the concept of citizenship over time from civil political to socio-economic rights. Okay. Socialist states emphasize over collective identity. Okay. This is the difference between the concept of citizenship in a democratic state and a socialist state. Though socialist state has not been asked, but you should write it in the conclusion. Very direct question: structures and functions of International Court of Justice. 15 judges, 9 years, president who serve for 3 years. Okay. No two judges are elected from one particular state. Right. It gives advisory opinion to UN bodies and specialized agencies. And it settles disputes. Court's decisions are binding. Requires the consent. Some treaties and conventions confer compulsory jurisdiction. Okay. While ICJ deals with states, ICC can persecute even individuals. Difference between ICJ and ICC. Structure and function of UNSC. ये तो पढ़ी लोगे. Structure and function of UNSC. Main function of UNSC is to ensure it deals with the issues of peace and security. Can issues of climate change be raised in UNSC? Yes. Okay. As recently been raised by the government of Fiji. Okay. That climate change is also an issue of peace and security. Now discuss the relevance of normative ethos of NAM in magnifying India's soft power in pursuit of her national interest. Relevance of normative ethos in the contemporary times? Yes. Normative ethos means value based. First paragraph is about NAM. The values: peace, justice, equality, sovereignty, and the principles of Panchsheel and Vasudev Kutumbakam. Morgenthau has emphasized on power as the means to achieve national goal. NAM provided India with a normative framework that complemented and enriched its pursuit of interest beyond military or economic strength. So for questions like this, it is, despite you have, it is more how you are going to play with the words. अप्लाई किया. यही काम आंसर राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस टेस्ट सीरीज में करना है और अपने मॉडल आंसर्स रेडी करने हैं. You need to do this work in your model answers. Okay, take the help of these model answers and make structure for more and more questions. See the previous year questions, what kind of questions UPSC can ask on this topic, and prepare your framework for that. And you need to have a vocabulary in your mind. Okay, if this kind of question has been asked, what I'm going to write in this particular answer. That is how you prepare your essays also. Okay, na? So what kind of questions can be there on neorealism? Prepare the framework. Okay, for questions like this will be my framework. Okay, so this kind of question has never been asked. As I said, is the first time they have asked the relevance of normative ethos of NAM. Soft power rooted in its ability to attract and persuade. It became a theoretical basis for India's foreign policy within the context of NAM. To advocate the values of justice, equality, and the rights of the global South. You can see it on your mobile also. So first thing is, what are the normative ethos of NAM? Okay, what are the normative ethos? What are the values we want to propagate through NAM? First thing is this. Do these values has any relevance in magnifying India's soft power? This is the question. दोबारा बोलूं? Discuss the relevance of normative ethos of NAM. So first thing, what are the values of NAM? What values we want to propagate through NAM? And how these values helps to enhance India's soft power? This is the question. अब ये language आप replicate नहीं कर सकते, ये model answer है. You need to use this to frame your answer in your own language. समझ गए? इसका 1/5 भी लिखा एग्जाम में तो सिलेक्शन हो जाएगा, इंटरव्यू कॉल आ जाएगी. ठीक है? So it seems easy to prepare. Preparing model answer is very easy. Referring internet, having all the books in front of you, and then prepare the model answer. It is not that easy to even comprehend the answer, to comprehend the question properly sitting in the mains. क्या question है? Discuss the relevance of the normative ethos of NAM. First thing, what are the normative means values. Discuss the relevance of the values of NAM. So पहले तो आपको पता हो values क्या है NAM की, फिर relevance of the values in magnifying India's soft power in pursuit of national interest. So what are the values of NAM? Whether these values has any relevance, how these values are helping India to enhance its soft power towards the fulfillment of its national interest. ये है breakup question का, है ना? And as such, this question has never been asked previously. So now, पहले सोचो क्या है values NAM की? What are the values of NAM? Mutual coexistence. यही है ना value? Mutual coexistence, non-interference, ensuring peace, justice, equity, liberty, and especially for whom? The underprivileged world, that is the global south. ठीक है ना, ये values है. And how these values are helping India to enhance its soft power? Now you can tell that, and that too towards the fulfillment of its national interest. India claims leadership based on this only, and India claims for what? Permanent membership in UNSC also. You know? That by becoming a permanent member, India wants to further strengthen these values in the world political system. Okay. So if power is the endeavor of the states, according to Morgenthau, India is looking forward to project its power credentials with the help of what? The normative ethos of NAM. पूछो कुछ और दिमाग में आ रहा हो, पढ़ लो एक बार. हाँ पढ़ो. यार कंटेम्प्रेरी, बिल्कुल कंटेम्प्रेरी क्वेश्चन है. डिस्कस द रेलेवेंस of normative ethos. Discuss the relevance of the values being propagated by NAM in the contemporary time. Discuss the relevance of the values being propagated by man. Is the values which are being propagated by NAM has any relevance for India towards the fulfillment of its national interest through its soft power? Do these values magnify our soft power? Yes. The normative ethos of NAM do magnify our soft power, and this do help us towards the fulfillment of our national interest. And India wants to project itself as a leader of global south. आसान नहीं है ये क्वेश्चन अटेम्प्ट करना, मैं बता रहा हूं आपको. तो कोई झूठ झूठ बोल दे हाँ बहुत इजी था मैं कर देता, इट्स नॉट दैट इजी. So this is where you need to do a lot of practice. And that's why I always say take your test series a bit more seriously. ठीक है ना? Do write wrong answers. Now अब समझो, for such question probably there is a possibility that you are not able to interpret it properly and you can write a wrong answer for this. In general, you cannot write wrong. In general, it is only about how you are going to improve. Okay, so this is what the UPSC mains answer writing is all about. That writing, starting from writing average to start writing good to excellent answers. ठीक है ना? So अपना जब पेपर मेंस का अटेम्प्ट करोगे फाइनल लाइफ में, पहले एक्सीलेंट आंसर्स लिखना जो अच्छे से आते हैं, फिर उसके बाद गुड वाले आएंगे, फिर लास्ट में वो जो एवरेज आते हैं, है ना? So that at least you should able to fetch better marks in those which you are well prepared with. ऐसा ना हो पहले तो वो कर रहे हैं जो हमें आते नहीं थे और बाद में टाइम नहीं बचा, जो हमें आते थे वो हम अच्छे से कर नहीं पाए. ठीक है ना? So these strategies are very important. क्लियर है क्वेश्चन? ये मॉडल आंसर पढ़ के और सोचना और बेटर फ्रेम कर सकते हो इजी लैंग्वेज में, तो यू शुड फ्रेम दैट. ठीक है? नाउ it is the person I know, few those who have written mains this year, they have not, them the answer, the one who has framed the model answer for this question himself has written mains this year. ठीक है, चलो आपको बता देता हूँ, मैं खुद मेंस लिखा है और वो खुद ये नहीं लिख पाया था, हैंस मॉर्गन था, उसको याद नहीं आया वहां पर. ठीक है? So it is not like this that you will able to remember everything, but now because you have a model answer, so if such question will come in future, you will going to mention the name of whom? Morgenthau. Okay, so it is like this. वो नहीं ले पाएगी, ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है, दैट व्हाट आई एम सेइंग। ठीक है, तो इट इज नॉट दैट इजी दैट यू विल गेट, बिकॉज देखो यहाँ बैठ के डिस्कस करना है समथिंग एल्स। आई नो द प्रेशर ऑफ मेंस, वंस यू विल बी देयर एंड यू हैव टू फ्रेम आंसर्स फॉर how many answers you have to frame. Okay, eight every 2 to 3 part, huh? So it will, at least you have to write 16 to 17. Okay, this is another set of challenge. And for every answer you first have to make a framework, you have to prepare a structure, and then you will going to frame the answers for that question. ठीक है ना? आपके दिमाग में सिर्फ सिलेबस होगा, आंसर नहीं होगा. So what is short for? Ability to attract. Are we able to attract others through the normative ethos of NAM? Yes. Okay. In what ways does the functionalist approach? Now, this is a straightforward question. If you know the theory of functionalism, you can write an answer for this question. पढ़ लो एक बार. So, where is the scope to score more? Paper 1 or paper 2? Paper 2. There is always more scope to score in paper 2. Paper 1 is still comparatively a bit more static. So you can take edge in paper 2. So you need to remember the name of the scholars: David Mitrani, Locke Kant, Richard Cobden. बस ये आंसर बहुत easy था अटेम्प्ट करना. And realist will criticize, and other than realist, neo-functionalist will also criticize. You can't ignore the role of whom? The politicians. So realist, that they have neglected the role of power politics. इसमें mention नहीं किया है neo-functionalism. You can mention neo-functionalist too, because functionalist has only emphasized on economic aspect, ignoring the political aspect. And according to neo-functionalist, okay, it is not possible to ignore the role of the politicians. And one of the reasons why SAC is not able to regionally integrate, because there is no political consensus. The model answers are also there on your portal. It's there on your portal or not? You can check. Zoom meeting पर भी share करवाया था मैंने. It's there. And try not to cram these model answers. You cannot cram. You need to use them as a framework. ठीक है ना? You can't cram them. Imagine these are the model answers for the previous papers, and you will going to have 16 tests, and you will have model answers for 16 set. How much value addition it will be for you? Okay, use all these things as a framework. How does the regime change and political crisis in Myanmar threaten regional security and peace? So it is a bit of, if you should be aware of your internal security also. Insurgency in Northeast, right? Violence in Northeast can have its direct impact on India. A lot of political violence and instability in the region. Okay, there are tribes who have their ethnic linkages with the tribes in Myanmar. If you remember the name of few tribes, you can mention that too. Okay. India can't be too critical of the junta leadership. This can drift them towards China, and China in our backyard is a challenge for India. Okay. Major parts, China and US have vested interest, adding an additional layer. Myanmar lies in our immediate neighborhood. India pursuing neighborhood first. We want peace and stability and vibrant democracy here. देखो इसको यहाँ पे पॉइंट लिखा नहीं है बट आप मेंशन कर सकते हो. The persecution of Rohingyas has led to the migration of Rohingyas and many have entered into Bangladesh and 1 lakh Rohingyas have been given the refugee in the government of Bangladesh has given asylum to the 1 lakh community of Rohingyas. This has increased a lot of burden and pressure on the government of Bangladesh and NRC in India, okay, through which especially NRC in Assam, and the government of Bangladesh has clearly refused to accept the illegal migrants which has been identified by India through NRC. Okay, as already there is a lot of pressure on the government of Bangladesh because they have given refuse to the Rohingya community. So you can link with this. It can have its impact on the, it can have its impact with the other neighboring states of India. अब यहाँ पे बिम्स्टेक में म्यांमार है. So, अगर सार्क में प्रॉब्लम इंडिया पाकिस्तान और वायलेंस इंस्टेबिलिटी अफगानिस्तान की है तो म्यांमार में इंस्टेबिलिटी विल हैव इट्स इंपैक्ट ऑन बिम्स्टेक एंड इंडिया इज फोकसिंग अ लॉट ऑन व्हाट बिम्स्टेक एंड इंडिया वांट्स टू यूज बिम्स्टेक एज अ गेटवे टू एक्ट ईस्ट. So success of our Act East lies with the vibrancy in BIMSTEC and its vibrancy will be under challenge if Myanmar will be a military dictatorship. पढ़ लो इसे एक बार. So after a point, you will realize that once you have proper understanding, framing answers is like holding command on vocabulary. If you have command on vocabulary, you can play with words, you'll be able to frame answers for the questions because you have a proper understanding of the issues. पता ही होता है इतना. You don't have to prepare notes on this. हाँ, मान लो कोई आर्टिकल आ गया, किसी ने लिख दिया, someone has written a good article on the dynamics of Myanmar politics and you are reading it from the newspapers, you find some important points, you can write those points in your notes considering this is in the news, and that's why analysis of previous year papers is very important. बिल्कुल क्वेश्चन आएगा, आ सकता नहीं है, आएगा, आएगा ही आएगा. India and the neighborhood, I have discussed that, the concentric circle approach. So 2 to 3 questions are bound to come from the region itself. Then India and the extended neighborhood, आ गया West Asia पर, Quad dynamics पर, West Asian Quad पर, India and the extended neighborhood. Then India and the major powers of the world. Okay, India Russia पर आ गया, Quad पर आ गया. So the questions will come from here only. See, questions are not difficult in UPSC. Framing answers is a challenge in UPSC. Questions तो ऐसे नहीं होंगे कि आपको क्या पूछ लिया, what has been asked, I don't know. The problem is how you are going to compile a good answer for that question in the stipulated time period. Just give me a minute. Now, this is during the Cold War. NAM tried to become a third force, but failed. Okay, this is the question in the context of Cold War, failure of NAM. Now you can write the opinion of the scholars also who has criticized NAM, which I have given you in your notes. Okay, na? NAM was in a state of coma. Okay, during the time of Cold War, it does not have anything much to add. Its characterization as a third force has been subject to critical discussions, considering its size and diversity, because within NAM there were few democratic states, other were socialist communist states, and other were military dictatorship, okay, or authoritarian leadership. Without a common stand, there was no common stand on key global issues. There was no political there is no political convergence. Okay, different kind of political systems were there within the NAM. Okay, superpowers manipulated NAM members for their own interests. One of the major power, India, signed the friendship treaty with Soviet, which put the question mark on India's commitment towards NAM. Dependency theory, scholars influenced by dependency theory, that is Marxist scholars, economically and politically dependent, and this restricted their capacity to act as an autonomous third force. It did have some success towards decolonization and disarmament. Okay, and then it is wrong to say that it was not having any relevance. It still plays important role in global politics, especially strengthening the unity of global South. Rise of EU as a highly influential regional organization. Again, you will going to touch the theory of functionalism. This, I guess, I have not discussed in your class yet. Copenhagen School. अभी ये नहीं किया ना Copenhagen School? नहीं किया होगा अभी. Securitization of environmental issues. Still, I have to discuss this. नहीं. This is more of. हाँ, वैसे तो उस पार्ट से ही है, but this Copenhagen School will come. We discussed national interest, but we have not discussed the concept of security yet. Okay, so we have discussed security dilemma, right? We have not discussed the concept of security. Okay, whose security, from what, and the types of security theories. There are two types of security theory: instrumentalist and reflectivist. We have discussed this. नहीं किया ना अभी? So one of the reflective security theories, Copenhagen School. Okay, so Copenhagen School by Barry Buzan. It is much closer to social constructivist. That is, everything is in the mind. Okay, securitization of the issue. So that basically it is influenced by postmodernism, Foucault's concept of discourse. That is saying things in a specific way. Like before you started your own preparation, and when I asked, what is the major security threat for India, you said, hey, Pakistan, you know this, okay, China, but now you know the biggest security threat is corruption. No, because we don't talk it in day-to-day language that how bigger the threat is. That's why we thought that the biggest security threat is external. Reality is it is internal. This is what exactly the Copenhagen School is all about. That is, the more we'll talk about something, that will be seen as a important theme, rather than the most important security threat at present for the humanity is what? Environment change. Okay, this is what exactly Yes, more number of people do get died during in the road accidents in India, but we don't take road accidents seriously. Still, we don't use helmet. You have to impose the fines to make people wear helmet. But so much threat for what? COVID. Less number of deaths from COVID, then more number of deaths in a year by road accident. Okay, this is what. So we need to take this issue of environment a bit more seriously. So this is threat to human security. Issue of securitization का question है ये. That how these challenges becomes matter of securitization of environmental issues. Securitization means we talk in such a manner that issue seems of less importance and other issue seems as of more importance. Okay, we think that as if so many deaths takes place due to terrorism. Okay, army as a profession is threatening, though more number of people are getting died every day on roads rather than our army getting died in the act of terror. Okay. So this Copenhagen school, I'll tell you, we have to discuss. Impact of globalization on the developing countries of the world. Okay, so इसमें modernization perspective and Marxist perspective आएगा. Post-colonial theory of state. Okay, the view of the scholars of post-colonialism, offensive and defensive realism. Various constraints on American hegemony today. कौन सा? ये वाला ना? वेरियस कंस्ट्रेंट्स. अब वो पुराना हो गया होगा ना. 12th क्लास एनसीईआरटी का जो आंसर है वो पुराना हो गया होगा. व्हाट आर द वेरियस चैलेंजेस टू अमेरिकन हेजेमनी? First is rising China. One is rising China. वो तो लिबरल वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर को चैलेंज है यार. हर जगह एक ही बात थोड़ी ना कर दोगे. एक सेकंड. पावर ट्रांजिशन थ्योरी याद है? Criticism to the concept of balance of power. Peace prevails not when there is BOP, rather there is a huge imbalance of power. So if there is a huge imbalance, then peace prevails. This is the belief of power transition theory given by Organsky, Kenneth Organsky. चेक करना बैलेंस ऑफ पावर के कॉन्सेप्ट में चैलेंजेस टू द बैलेंस ऑफ पावर. सो इफ अमेरिकन हेजेमनी विल डिक्लाइन, व्हाट विल बी द आउटकम? rise of tensions, and this is what we can see in the present world politics, that Russia is challenging, or Russia, as power transition going on, US failed to deter Russia, and this has led to the emergence of what? Ukraine war. China is becoming more and more vocal and threatening Taiwan with a military action. These are the more discuss the various constraints on American hegemony. What are the constraints? ये भी answer नहीं है. Which of these are likely to become more prominent in the future? देखो, 2008 financial crisis exposed vulnerabilities in the US economy. Question क्या पूछ रहा है? Discuss the various constraints on American hegemony. Constraints का मतलब क्या है? हाँ, discuss the constraints, that is the limits or the constraints, discuss the various constraints on American hegemony today. What all the factors, we can say what all are the factors which are restricting American hegemony? What all are the factors which are restricting American hegemony? And this decline started from when? 2008 financial crisis. First constraint is America no longer commands a similar kind of economic strength. America has overstretched itself militarily. Okay, ये तो constraints हैं. Which of these are likely to become more prominent in the future? Rising China's economic influence in the world politics. Okay. China's rapid economic growth and military modernization poses a significant threat to American hegemony. And this is the reason why US can't afford to see China acquiring or China having political control over Taiwan. It will change the economic order. Okay. So various constraints on American hegemony today are it no longer commands the same kind of economic power, and it has overstretched itself militarily, and which are likely to become more prominent, rising China's economic and military profile. Okay, we're going to put further constraints on what? American hegemony. Outcome will be what? Outcome you will check, you will write the outcomes, which has not been asked through HST, hegemony stability theory, because according to the scholars of HST, liberal economy can sustain only under a hegemon, and power transition theory, which is a challenge to balance of power. Once power transition will take place, we'll see more chaos, violence, and conflict. क्या it is constrained. So US under Trump started demanding that NATO members needs to contribute more. So US no longer wants to take the burden for European security. Yes, it's a constraint because US has put a lot of burden on US, okay, for European security. And this is the reason why Trump wants European states to contribute more for European security. Okay, so you can, now I have another class, so you can read the model answers further. If you feel any doubt and you want to discuss, when I'll come for the discussion for the first test, that day, if you want to ask anything else, you can ask from this discussion also. And many of you have already written the first test. Those who are still planning to write, you can write. And within few days, I'll plan the test discussion for the first test. And then we'll meet for the test discussion for the first test. Okay. On that day also, if you want to discuss and ask anything, you can. So see you in the discussion for the first test. I'll make sure I'll go for the discussion for the test once you will have the checked copies with you, so that during the discussions, if you want to ask anything, you want to discuss anything from your checked feedback, the feedback you have got, take your feedback more seriously and try to use the feedback in your next test to frame a better answers. Okay, so it will be like this only. You will write the test, you will get your answer sheets checked with detailed feedback, and then I'll come for the test discussion. Okay, so you can read the rest of the model answers whenever you have time, and I'll plan and probably I'll take the discussions for the test probably on Sundays or Saturday or Sunday. I'll plan the discussions, and it will be in the hybrid mode. Those who want to come in the class, you can come. Okay. See you. Bye. Take care. I'll share the PDF again. Don't worry. Where you want me to share it? And again, means you just keep writing in the chat box. Can't you sit with your webcam on and speak? What you want to attain from this? I don't know. कहाँ शेयर करना है फीडबैक? सॉरी, पीडीएफ कौन से बैच की बात कर रहे हो? कहाँ मुझे शेयर करना है? ठीक है, चलो बाय, टेक केयर.